Ahoy, fellow math jocks.
And welcome aboard The Joy of Trek, a melodic podcast exploring the mess halls and concert halls of Star Trek.
All of it.
I'm Kaki.
I'm Kay.
And sorting the Doctor's fan mail is your chief engineer, Greg.
Together, we're on a mission through the quadratic equations of Star Trek to find the glare in every hologram head and the excellence in every episode.
Even the Kim tones. Oh, boo!
Because every episode must be someone's favorite, and it might as well be us.
So, quick change your outfits and join us as we sing into the Joy of Trek.
We should have agreed on the melody for that one beforehand.
Man, it's just free. You just follow your inspiration.
Doesn't work like that.
It kind of, well, okay, so maybe it doesn't work, but at least we tried.
You've seen that episode of Young Indiana Jones, haven't you? Where he is like...
Actually, yes, where he's got a little alto saxophone.
Right, yes. And he basically gets told off when he just like starts swinging, just trying to go completely off the road and go like, practice a little bit first. Know the song that you're playing actually before you can improvise on it.
Why do I know this completely by heart? Because then he does Three Blind Mice and like the whole thing is very tragic. It wasn't jazz, it was blues.
Oh, right,
You've got to
yes.
feel the blues and it ends very tragically. And then we flash back forward to a terrible situation that adult Harrison Ford finds himself in where like the miscreants, I think, are about to leave his home after having robbed him again. I'm literally playing this episode in my head.
Anyway, welcome to our Star Trek podcast.
He grabs his alto saxophone and plays a note that makes the snow fall off his cabin and crushes the adversaries.
I don't remember that part.
Whoa!
Anyway, welcome to the Star Trek podcast.
Yes, where young Indiana Jones was featured. Who was the actor who played young Indiana Jones? He was one of the Boondock Saints.
Okay.
Opposite Daryl from The Walking Dead. Whoa, should we do... Hey, just quick... everybody else, just go and do something else. Okay, should we do a young Indiana Jones podcast instead of Star Trek?
Ooh, I think we'll run out of episodes. I mean, there's only like 2 or 3 seasons.
They might make more.
What? We tried that with Farscape. It didn't work with that one either.
No, that's true. Okay, fine. Let's change our minds and like hang up our tails between our legs and return to Star Trek because we are doing from Star Trek Voyager,
Season 6,
Episode 13.
Virtuoso,
written by Raf Green. Ooh, it's a story by Raf Green, teleplay by Raf Green and Kenneth Biller. Yes, he had, I think, left the writer's room at the end of season 5, and then when Ronald D. Moore departed in season 6, Ken Biller came back a little bit.
Okay.
Can you synopsize this for our listeners?
Oh, great.
Yeah.
There we go. Okay.
Please
Yes.
just do the trick that you're so good at that we all appreciate.
Oh, geez, yes.
Until we replace you with...
Okay, so upon encountering a vastly superior species who are rather disdainful, and they discover that the Doctor has a musical talent, especially a singing voice, which is something that these aliens have never heard of. But rather than latch onto music as a general concept, they latch onto the Doctor specifically.
Yeah.
And he discovers that he's got a bit of a rapidly building fan base. He decides to quit Voyager and live on the planet instead, which he gets shot down a little bit after it discovers that the aliens actually do have a broader appreciation for music on a more technological scale, I would say. And yes, as you just so succinctly put it, he tucks his tails and returns back to the crew.
Oh, excellently put.
I believe it was generally seen as a attempt for Voyager to reflect on fans in general. And
yes, we have some quotes. Starting with Jammer's reviews. Hey, by the way, we've been a little bit critical of Jammer's reviews because, it tends to be critical of things that we find joy in. But I discovered something really cool about this site. It was originally created by, and I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce the name, Jamal Epsikokan. It's not a name that I'm familiar with, so apologies if I got that wrong. But this was created in the 90s when he was in college, and these reviews were being written as they came out.
Okay.
So for DS9, Voyager, Enterprise, and I think since then, he's written these reviews for every weekly episode.
Oh, so it's always written by Mr. Jammer himself, or
Yes,
Jamal in
yes.
this case, yes.
He goes by Jammer.
Okay. Oh, all right, fair enough.
He was even at one point invited over to LA to pitch a story to the Star Trek writers' room.
Okay, nice.
Nothing came of it, but still an exciting development. We also have one Darren from the movie blog.
You went on about Jammer's review and then you actually didn't give that.
Yeah, Kay, I had that same thought too. I wasn't sure if I had missed something, so I'm glad that you called him on that. Thanks, Kay. Thanks for helping out there.
Various 4-star moments and 0-star moments rolled into one watchable but uneasy episode.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on why you think it as uneasy.
I mean, at the time, I certainly felt the same. I didn't love the opera stuff either.
Oh, well.
Darren from the movie blog, Virtuoso never does anything interesting or compelling with the Qomar. Instead, the episode seems to treat them as a metaphor for fandom.
Yeah, there you go, yeah.
This is another example of Voyager meditating upon the reality that Star Trek is a cultural institution. This reflection perhaps driven by anxiety about the franchise's declining status and popularity. Ooh. Honestly, that wasn't something that I was aware of, but, there is certainly something in that. Because the previous episode in Voyager was Blink of an Eye.
Yeah.
And it's the one where Voyager orbits a planet where time goes much, much, much faster. And, they find themselves being the subject of an entire species' civilizational development because they're hovering in the sky through their Middle Ages from the Stone Age up to their industrial age.
Interesting, yeah.
Which is maybe also like a reflection.
I think I've actually seen that episode.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah.
Definitely one of my favorite episodes of Voyager 2.
But also a reflection on, Star Trek has been around for our entire lives.
Yes.
Right? But when we first look up into the sky and saw the Enterprise there, and our relationship with it has changed as we did. We have one from Keith R.A. de Candido. Do you want to take that one?
Sure. I want to like this episode more than I do, and it took me a while to realize what my biggest problem is. It's incredibly mean-spirited towards fans, which, given Star Trek history, is a bold and misguided move.
What do you think of that?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't call it particularly mean-spirited. It's entirely true.
Yeah.
They are quick to come and quick to leave. Fans.
This is interesting. I'm gonna go through this episode and see if we take the Qomar as a representation of fans as experienced by celebrities. Do we maybe see more in this than we did on First Watch? And finally, we have Halloween Jack on fanfare.metafilter.com, who comments on the sheer cheek of making the Planet Without Music's president Paul Williams, of all people. Paul Williams, who has been the president and chairman of the American Songwriting Society, ASCAP. He wrote the score and lyrics for Bugsy Malone. He wrote Rainbow Connection from the Muppets movie. Yeah. Right? A legendary song. The lyrics, but not the song, to The Love Boat. Yeah. Which,
love, exciting and new. Well, I mean, that's also kind of appropriate to this episode.
Oh, yeah. And the ending theme to the Don Bluth film, The Secret of Nim, which featured a young Will Wheaton.
Yes. Okay, yeah, I mean, it's ironic and amusing. There's one other comment from some Redditor. Didn't actually find it. Yes. When the series first came out, I didn't like it. I tried to watch the first season again right before being deployed, and I still didn't like it.
Oh. Okay.
But then they turn around and say, I've binged it in the last week, and now I really do like it.
That's some whiplash. Did they mention anything about...
No, it's like it's...
No, okay.
It's just a particular...
Well, fandom be fickle. Hey, I've got a special little treat here, or I would if my technology collaborated with me, which is I've actually got the trailer that aired on UPN for this episode.
Okay.
Are you interested in this trailer? All right.
Bring it.
Now, you're only going to get the audio, obviously.
Yes,
but
I was wondering about that.
Here we go. This is for Virtuoso. Here we go.
Wednesday. The first of 6 all-new Voyager adventures begins.
That left Borg you.
Takes to survive. Only on UPN.
Try to enjoy yourselves. That's an order.
Star Trek Voyager.
Okay.
Which contains not 1 second of footage from this actual episode.
Okay.
Most of which is taken from Tsunkatse, the one with The Rock, and a lot of punching.
Oh, yes.
You know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Dwayne The Rock Johnson appeared as in a network-mandated wrestling crossover episode, because that's how television worked at the time.
Oh gosh, yes. It's like, is this a crossover episode? Oh, no. What's that from? Oh, that's from the cartoon with the horse and the dog.
BoJack Horseman.
That's the one, yes.
Yeah, with Mr. Peanut Butter. But no, I was thinking of, they did theme weeks on UPN where all the shows, their episode that week would have to follow a particular theme, like Voyager, Dark Desire. Which episode was that? And then you had 1 week where everyone was super into wrestling on all the shows, including...
Okay, wow, yeah. I mean, I guess the power of networks.
We got a recommendation.
Oh, yes.
Our recommendation comes from Hoofburd. Thank you, Hoofburd. Lovely to hear from you again. Who said...
So, I just had to submit another pick from my official childhood Star Trek. This one's interesting for, I think, a few reasons. One, it's Bob Picardo getting to flex basically the entire time. There's nothing not to like about that. It's got possibly my favorite bit of EMH and 7 of 9 interaction. There's some bits in the show where their relationship does definitely get on, but this was perhaps my favorite pure moment. And also, this episode definitely predicted something. Oh, what exactly? Hard to say. Like, did the Qomar dump Doctor for ChatGPT or Hatsune Miku? You could take the comparison in a number of different ways, but I think it's a timely episode to look at all the same.
I think that perspective is really, really interesting because in the 90s when this aired, this was all about like individual celebrity and the fickleness of the audience and moving on to the new thing. But now we're dealing with the idea of like, what is art? Can it be appreciated without creativity behind it, right? Without being created by an individual? Is the creativity of an individual transferable? Now, the clear answer to that is no. None of that is possible, right? The art is the work, and yes...
Right. I mean, you can see that in how quickly it turns into a model collapse when you start feeding AR-generated works into AI.
Yes, the enshittification of the internet. Now, I will add one thing. That there is work in AI-generated art, and that curation is a form of creativity. Like, one could say that DJs only play music that already exists. There's nothing like authentic about them, but they're selecting music according to taste, and that's creative expression. And so, an AI quote-unquote artist who generates 100 versions of the same prompt and selects one is actually performing some creative work, but it's not, not original, but
yeah. And of course, the tools that they are using are based on stolen material.
That is the key. Yeah. Those tools shouldn't exist for free. Yeah. And I think that these are some really, really interesting topics to take with us, unless you have a warp core to dump.
Oh, let's see. Do I have any warp core dumps?
And it has to be an important thing, like...
well, if anything, it would be like the whole way that... I mean, but that's also integral part of the story.
Okay, fine, here we go.
I say we eject the warp core!
Go for it, Kay.
Well, I was going to say, it's like the way Janeway treats the Doctor. Like, I mean, but that's, why she doesn't put her foot down. Like, he tries to throw it in her face that, like, oh, but you just see me as a piece of technology. And she kind of dodges that question, but then she lets him go.
And so I think the answer is no, you don't have a warp core. You just have an opinion about a scene that we're going to get to? Or do you want to,
Well, that's the thing. It's like you can argue about that, whether or not that is a warp.
Hey, that's why we're doing a podcast,
I don't think it is a warp core. No, there's nothing that's particularly wrong.
All right, then,
bad,
as you said, lock S foils in attack position.
Yes.
Which is what Voyager does. And off we go.
We open in sickbay with a voiceover because Voyager has...
We've towed a damaged vessel aboard and are attempting to repair it, while the Doctor treats the Qomarian crew who have suffered minor injuries.
Which is presumably quite small, which is fitting because the aliens in themselves aren't particularly tall.
Yeah, this is like... as much as there are scenes where... I think compositionally and visually, like, their height is played for a gag. Like, it makes entire sense that a different species has a different average height.
Yes.
And they've cast actors of a particular height, but it does sometimes make them appear like munchkins gathering around Dorothy.
They're not that short. I mean, on average, they're about a head shorter than the average human.
They've also chosen, and I'm not sure if this is an artistic choice or just like how the actors wound up performing their lives, but there's kind of a stilted dialogue to how they pronounce themselves. There's this woman there who talks to the Doctor like a British, or American tourist talks to like a Moroccan person in Marrakesh, which is just speaking in English but much slower.
We are ready to return to our ship. Could you contact one of your superiors?
I interpret it as disdainfulness from the aliens towards being treated by an inferior holographic matrix.
Certainly.
Blah, blah, blah. And to a certain degree, they have that same disdainfulness towards the entire crew. They clearly see themselves as superior, and they're not afraid to let that show.
Yeah. But then when she speaks normally, she sort of sounds the same way. This woman, her name is Timku.
Yeah.
And she still sounds like she's enunciating everything for everyone's benefit, even speaking amongst themselves.
The doctor is getting more and more sarcastic.
Yes, his patients are not allowing him to treat them, even going to the point where...
It is a very irritating program.
Maybe we can disable its speech subroutines.
Clearly, they just see him as a piece of equipment.
Yeah, because they go, hey, maybe we can modify him, and they immediately go to the console to just like delete some bits of him.
Hey, you're not allowed to touch that. Yes.
The captain comes in to smooth things over. She accepts all of their barbs and says, well...
Try to bear with our deficiencies just a little longer.
They're claiming that they're such a superior race, and they're like, your scanning beam damaged our systems. And I'm like, wow, great. So your superior technology, superior culture, society doesn't even have a bloody CE rating on your starships? It's like if a scan beam from a Voyager damages their ship, it's not very good, is it?
Ooh. If we took a high-powered radio from, say, turn of the last century and started operating that in the middle of our country...
Yeah.
Would that disrupt other communications? Because
they might.
Right, they were high-powered, broad spectrum, like the kind of thing that is actually now illegal and would be used even as an attack.
Oh, yes.
So maybe there are technologies that are much more sensitive and much more effective, but that are vulnerable.
Yeah, but they're in space. If you could go near a solar mass ejection, then you'd be in even more trouble. And these are a superior spacefaring species, You'd think they'd have some shield technology and not... It seems a bit...
No, but there is no such thing as a superior civilization. It's, in fact, very primitive thinking.
Well, they certainly seem to think that way.
Right, which is a bit of a self-own, like for Western civilization, which considers itself superior because of industrialization and, particular forms of politics and, disdaining the incredible advances of other cultures that maybe have not done the industrialization thing. Yeah. I think, for example, before the arrival of Western colonizers, the Iroquois nation was in their second decade of experimenting with federalized democracy, a phenomenon that would not occur in Europe for centuries thereafter. But some incredible things were being done throughout the world that were not being appreciated. Now Voyager finds itself on the other end of it, and Captain Janeway kindly accepts that and also uses that opportunity well.
I guess we'll leave the repairs in your superior hands.
Yeah.
Yes, we will. As soon as we've been fixed, can you send someone to fix us?
Can you keep fixing us? Yes. Doc does his thing and he starts humming a little tune to himself.
And all their ears prick up.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, what this? What doing?
And they come over to him like some cows in a pasture walking over to some girl playing her violin.
Well, what's going on here? And they're like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm preparing your medicine. And it takes them a little bit to cotton on to the fact that they're talking about the humming that he was doing, or the little song that he was singing.
What is this?
Yes.
We're fortunate that they're not the prophets from Deep Space Nine, because they could go, singing. What is this? Over and over about every single noun and verb that they hear.
Cut to credits.
Watch the whole thing through because I love Voyager's credits. Yeah. Our chief does as well, we know.
And then more singing.
It's kind of fitting, this song selection. I've been working on the railroad all the livelong day.
Conveniently, all of it in the public domain.
Yes, and very Euro-American centric. We don't have a nice Kikuyu lullaby or... maybe not some of the Irish songs that I learned from my family, but the Qomar are fascinated.
Is that the one, the fight and fight and fight and fight and then we fight some more? It's
also a very good one. The Irish drinking song by Chief. Can you help us out?
So I have to look this up every few years because I always forget. It's by the band Da Vinci's Notebook, an a cappella group. I know every single word to this song, but I can never remember who sings it. It's just one of those that's just stuck in my memory, but I can never remember that it's Da Vinci's Notebook. So maybe if I say it so many times that it's Da Vinci's Notebook, I'll remember who sings the song when the next time it comes up and I'm trying to find this song.
Thank you.
So yes, he's given a short little performance here for the aliens, for the Kumo or the Umax.
Qomar.
Qomar, that's the one.
Spelled with a Q, coincidentally homophonic with the Qomar who appeared in Cathexis, a previous Voyager episode. Star Trek does not have the best track record for creative names. Like there's on Astra Scientia, there's a whole section about T-name aliens. The Tamarians, the Talarians, the Talaxians, it just keeps going, and they're all
right. And then there's the K aliens, and
they're next. Yes.
It is a unique mathematical variation.
Difficult to quantify.
How do you suppose the algorithms are generated?
Maybe it's a fractal.
Or waveform calculus?
Do you mean to say a culture as superior as yours has never heard music of any kind?
Catch on to that part of music quickly, but then the Doctor has to tell them about the artistic part of it, and it's how it's about interpretation and expression
and emotion and conveying feelings.
And wait, you do this for fun?
Yeah, that as well. This is, I think, one of the fantasies that keeps us coming back to Star Trek in particular. This fantasy that you get to explain something that is completely new to someone and you get to really think about how to explain it comprehensively to them and to do a great job. That's just there's a bit of a colonizer fantasy there, explaining things to primitives, but it's also, it's what you do with kids, right?
Yes.
How do you explain... Yes, how do you explain AI art generation to a child who's just been taught that creativity matters and individuality matters?
Oh, crikey, yes. Well, there's an interesting segue in that.
Our database contains the works of thousands of musicians and composers. If you'd like, I could download some selections for you.
Could you sing them for us?
Yes, that's fascinating. Can you sing it for us?
They quickly grasp the overarching concept behind music, I suppose. It still becomes a very personal thing that it has to be done by the Doctor.
Yeah, which is fascinating, but not motivated.
No.
Right?
I guess that's where you get into the whole discussion about, how a fandom develops.
Yeah.
Although they don't say why it develops. I guess it's the first thing that they got exposed to by music was the Doctor, and therefore he is the font of all music.
It's very awfully monolithic, though.
Right, yeah.
Because you'd expect the next people to hear, music would want to latch on to whatever is new. The new sub fandom that always appears.
Yes, like the infinite branches of metal.
Ah, yes. The musical genre in this case.
Right, yes.
One of the great ways to, what kind of scientist someone is ask them, define metal.
Oh, right.
Like a geologist will have something very different to say from a physicist or a chemist or an ethnologist.
Although there's this word, unfortunately this is an audio podcast, but there's a word that you can easily tell if someone is a tradesperson or a scientist, or at least a chemist, by asking them, how would you pronounce, is it unionized or is it ununionized?
Oh, they get to talk to Paul Williams, the president of the Qomar civilization.
Because this very closed society is suddenly not so closed anymore.
I love how busy this system is.
Oh, yes.
And on the night side of the planet, you see all these lights.
Yeah.
Suggesting it's a heavily built-up planet.
Yeah, all straight lines, too.
Impressive on a globe.
I know, right? Clearly they must have been doing... Either the tech department must have been, cheaping out a bit in the SFX department, or they must have been building very strange angled lines to make them look straight from space.
I don't think that we can assume that anyone in the creative departments on Star Trek ever cheaped out when they could avoid it. Or, necessity is the mother of invention. But yeah, it's really busy. We've got lots of space stations, lots of spaceships, all using different encryption. It's a very, very busy system.
Which is mentioned, but never really... I guess it's mentioned to show the superiority of this species or the alienness of them, and then it becomes an issue in the episode again.
Which I think is fine.
Yeah.
It's just a way to establish how these people are, and that, they don't really interact with other species. They have plenty to do amongst themselves, clearly.
Be condescending to others.
Our civilization is no doubt intimidating. We'll do what we can to avoid overwhelming you during your stay.
I appreciate that.
There is a trend in Star Trek, certainly in the Berman era, where aliens are what Hollywood writers think foreigners are like.
Yes, very good point.
And I wonder if also, is this just what, our Star Trek heroes sound like to other people, normally, to less developed cultures, but the universal translator sort of smooths it out for everyone. Except it doesn't work the other way around, for some reason.
Yeah, funny that. Yeah, they basically... Janeway offers you're more than happy to give you our entire musical library. We don't even expect anything in return for that, but they're like, oh yeah, but we want the doctor. Again,
yes, we want access to this device.
To the, yes.
Already setting the seeds for, like, they never waver in seeing him.
No recording, we want the doctor.
Yep.
Okay, well, how about a recital?
We can put together a program of various styles of music.
Will the emergency medical hologram sing?
He'll be the star attraction.
Everyone is seated, and the Qomari are introduced to the concept of applause, which they quickly take to.
Yeah.
This episode marks the only time that Robert Picardo was dubbed over for his singing.
Not in all shots, I believe.
No.
Only the operatic parts, I believe.
Yep. And he was dubbed over by tenor Agostino Castagnola, which is the only time that the Doctor singing was not provided by Robert Picardo himself. And I remember, like, this kind of took me out of the episode the first time I saw it because the lip syncing isn't great.
No.
I wonder if Robert Picardo could have performed it himself. It's not easy.
I don't know.
He's a fine singer.
Oh, yes. No, absolutely. But, I mean, later on you can see him, like, trying to hit a few high notes and, deliberately failing, I guess.
Yes,
because it's...
well, and also those notes are outside of tenor range,
right,
which is what he is. So many wonderful operatic, recognizable operatic songs for tenors.
So, yes, after he's done his thing, he introduces...
So, without further ado, I give you Harry Kim and the Kim Tones.
I can't imagine, like, why did they agree on that name?
Yeah, I got nothing. Actually, I was going to go, maybe it's just the thing. No, you've got Del and the Del Tones. Right, okay. you got bands called like that in the era.
Oh, obviously, but I'm just wondering why the rest of the band agreed to being going by that name.
Oh, so they don't have to show up for every performance.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right?
Yeah.
You're a Del tone or you're a Kim tone, and you can just show up for some practice. Cool drummer. We've got everybody sitting a keyboardist. We've got them all supporting Harry on his amazing clarinet. But the Qomar are not so impressed.
We wish to hear the doctor.
Yes, the doctor.
Bring back the doctor.
We want the doctor to sing.
And Tom stage whispers into the doctor's ear, You've got to save him. They're dying up there. The doctor rides to the rescue.
That old black magic has me in its spell. That old black magic that you weave so well.
Oh, I love that old black magic.
Again, conveniently, that's a Glenn Miller band song, isn't it? Yes.
Very good, yes. Glenn Miller and his orchestra.
And the Glenn Tones.
Written by Harold Arlen with the lyrics by Johnny Mercer. And also the title of a very good early episode of Farscape.
Oh, yes, of course, yes. So, yes, afterwards, Neelix is serving finger food.
Yes, I'm obsessed with what this food is. I don't know what it is. It looks delicious, as his food always does.
Well, if you like jazz, you're going to love rock and roll. It was one of the 20th century's greatest inventions.
Does the doctor sing rock and roll?
I wouldn't say it's his favorite genre.
Then it isn't mine either, despite the fact that he's not heard it yet. So, again,
yeah.
It's like there's a very strange, like, cult of persona that develops around the Doctor, I suppose.
Yes. And this is that sort of celebrity obsession that, I was never really into and is kind of foreign to me still to this day.
Yeah, Vinka, who goes up to Harry to go like, oh, hello, and hi. It's like, oh, you wouldn't be able to introduce me to the Doctor now, would you? Which is also a thing that you see in a lot of fandoms. People around the core obsession getting befriended just because people try to use them as stepping stones to get to the real object of their interest.
Yeah, much like a particular spaceship that occurs in Star Trek Voyager with multi-vector assault mode.
Okay.
Yeah. If I'd come up with that just off the top of my head and been able to name it and you recognized it, that would have been a great joke, I think.
Yes, let's assume that it was very good. And
thank you.
I'm sorry.
I mean that sincerely. Sometimes you just bomb, right?
Well, especially if you don't know half the joke.
Yeah, no, exactly. So I'd really appreciate that you were there.
I don't remember how the rest of the joke goes, but your mom's a bitch.
Oh, no!
Okay, enough of that.
Congratulations, Doctor. You stole the show.
Thank you, Captain, but I can't take all the credit. There was something in the air, a certain magic.
Oh, yes, he's starting to walk beside his own shoes a little bit here. Is that even an English expression?
Oh, I actually don't know whether that's Dutch or English at this point.
It's definitely a Dutch expression, but...
Yeah, that's not an English expression I can see. The closest parallel would be being too big for your britches. That's about the closest I can see. But walking beside your shoes, I like that phrase. It's kind of fun to say. It's not an English expression, though.
Thank you.
The Qomar prelate, Paul Williams, asks for a performance on their planet so that more people can hear this music as soon as possible, please. And Tim Koo offers that they can provide one of the lecture halls at the university.
Yes.
What does that mean?
Oh.
Do you have...
I don't know.
For a species that seems to really relish mathematics, like everybody...
Yeah.
Do you have a university? Or have they moved on? Is it like a museum piece, and have they moved on beyond to other
interesting.
forms of education?
I don't know. I mean, like, if there's such a science-minded species, then, I mean, it depends on how they're organized. I mean, just like a university can have multiple buildings spread out over a city, I assume that, like, maybe they've just, like, organized all of their higher learning into the university.
Interesting. Nice.
This is just their main lecture hall. I suppose it's a bit small for a main lecture hall.
Yeah.
It's also, let's talk about this now, because I know just how that, like, because we get into the fact that the lecture hall needs to be modified.
If you consider the height of the average Qomar, it's obvious that anyone seated in the back 5 rows will have an obstructed view.
You're right. They won't be able to see anything but the top of your head. The glare could blind them.
Yeah, they really, really increased that angle a lot.
But it's kind of cool to see how there's basically 2 tiers. There's the lower tiers, which is kind of spread out, and it kind of looks like they repurposed a cargo hold stage or something and put some staging in there. And then there's the top half, which has much denser crowds, which clearly seems to be photoshopped in.
Yes. In fact, I think a lot of that is photoshopped in when you get the over-the-shoulder shots.
Oh, yes. Well, those are from the lower
exactly.
area.
So really well composited there.
And yes, it's very obvious that it is, in fact, a lecturing theatre and not a musical hall, because it's kind of small. It's like it's enough there on the stage for one person to stand and, like, walk around and, like, do some demonstrations. But it's clearly not meant to be for a large band or a theatre production.
But it does follow the ideals of the amphitheater. Oh, God. Originally, like, amphitheaters were just, like, naturally occurring divots in hills that just had great acoustics, and so they were used for this purpose. Where the Greek terminology, the sort of circle where the orator stands is called the theatron, right? That's where we get the word theater from.
Yeah.
And originally it was just a dude speaking and telling a story to an audience. And originally, like, the audience for Greek theatre had no ranks. It was a rare circumstance where, like, social rank had absolutely nothing to do. Whoever showed up first picked the seat that they wanted. Yeah. And so you could be sitting next to a king or a philosopher.
Right.
Also, one of the rare places where, like, physical altercations were punishable by death.
Okay, no fighting in this theatre.
Exactly. It's a sacred interaction between the divine and the creative.
Yes.
But as it became more popular, even the natural acoustics of these spaces, when they were recreated, it became hard to hear the orator. So they started to add, like, a chorus to repeat it, but louder with more voices.
Right.
And the audience would be masked and they were just repeating it. And then they figured, if you've got them anyway, they can say something else.
Oh, yes.
So you had interplay between the orator and the chorus.
Yeah.
And then, hey, the chorus can also say different things to each other. And we have people with different masks, becoming actors. And then we can have a backdrop, which they call the scene, where we get the word scene
comes from. Yeah.
And, like, step by step until we arrive here today and we're watching Star Trek Voyager. I'm sorry.
Yes, well, so occasionally you have to let your old inner theatre student out.
Yes, theatre kids, you know how we are. Alana is not really supportive of this.
Yes, she's like, what are we doing? But no, they're more than happy to replicate anything that is needed. Earth's most famous opera house.
And we're backstage, where you can see a scanner, painted backdrop, and some stage chandeliers, which are very two-dimensional. And the Doctor is fretting, walking back and forth, while Tim Koo is asking him, like, why are you...
nervous?
Yeah, yes. What's this about? He taps on his mobile emitter.
Yeah. Time to get into my costume.
It's wonderful. It's got all these ruffles and this hat with balls and flowers on it.
It's a bit of a clown jester. What's the name again? Not Piccolo.
Pulcinella?
No, it's not the word I was looking for, no.
Oh.
But...
Pinocchio?
No. Oh, crikey.
Pinky.
No, it's something. I don't know.
The brain.
You're not helping.
Pinhead.
No.
Where are we going?
It's like one of those. One of those.
Chief, stand by.
Pierrot is, I think, the word I was.
Pierrot
is the word I was looking for. Yes.
Yes, the French clown archetype.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, white face mask and a floppy hat. It's a very tragic figure. Oh no! Hold on. Pierrot has a beret.
Does he? Oh, okay.
I think this is.
I might be confused then.
I mean, clowning is a long and storied tradition, but I think I recognize this from Italian Commedia dell'arte.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Chief, can you tell us what we're looking at?
Yes, and here's what I can tell. This is from an 1892 opera by Ruggero Leoncavallo called Pagliacci. The clown is spot on with, the 1892 posters that they released and the subsequent productions of the opera. So I'm almost positive that's what this is. Had we heard the Doctor sing anything from this, I'd be even more convinced because I could compare to Pagliacci. But yeah, I'm almost positive that this is Pagliacci.
Oh,
that makes sense. They would pick something like that.
Yeah.
But yes, she doesn't do anything to alleviate his concerns, because not only after he says that, like, I'm exposing your entire culture to music, he goes like, oh yeah, we're broadcasting it live to a few 100 million people.
Yeah. Okay, that's better.
Not helping.
We cut to Voyager in orbit, where something happens that I think really does deserve a little bit of a warp core.
Yeah.
Because Janeway is on the bridge hovering around Harry Kim's station, and red alert is called.
Report.
I didn't order red alert, Captain.
Well, someone did.
Someone on the ship ordered red alert, and nobody knows who.
Where does it come from? Turns out it comes from astrophysics.
How is that possible?
I mean, it makes sense that you could, like, initiate red alert from anywhere.
No, you should be able to advise or call for red alert from anywhere, but not initiate it, because that activates the weapon system.
I guess
it's detectable from the outside as well.
Yeah.
Other ships can see that you're suddenly taking a defensive or even hostile posture.
But you'd at least think that you'd make contact with the captain and not let the captain figure out where it's coming from, and then go over there herself, walk there in person to find 7 of 9 standing there doing her thing. It's like, oh, we're under attack, we're being DDoSed.
Yes, because they're...
By overloading it with millions of teraquads of irrelevant data.
And they must be trying to overwhelm our systems. It is indeed a DDoS attack.
I've only been able to decode a little bit of it, and Janeway looks at it and goes,
This isn't sabotage, 7. This is fan mail.
Fan mail.
And the prophets say, what is this? I've heard that fan means fanatic.
It's creeping down the hall. What's this?
Oh, which one are you doing?
Oh, that's from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, yes. What's this? There's color everywhere.
Exactly.
What's this? There's white things in the air. Oh, what's this? The streets are lined with little creatures laughing. Everybody seems so happy. Have I possibly gone daffy? What is this?
Very good.
Thank you. Beautiful sort of non-linear script, the Qomar is. I love the screen of Astrometrics, this unique set on Star Trek Voyager.
This little projection unit, I suppose that it is. 7 doesn't understand. This glorification of the individual is irrational.
And Janeway, I think, does a really good job explaining it. A scene that just barely squeaks by the Bechdel test because they really are talking about...
a hologram. Yeah. I mean, yes.
A little bit. But I thought it was really good because we see this from Janeway's perspective.
I suppose he's the embodiment of what they admire. He can do something they can't. That makes him special.
I think it's a good scene because it kind of lampshades the whole... discussions like, why are we focusing on the Doctor? Like, why are they not? And that's exactly the question that 7 asks. It's like, why is it only the Doctor they're interested in? And Janeway goes like, well, he's the one who exposed them. He's just their focus for this new thing.
Yeah. And being connected with him and being obsessed with the minutiae of his life makes them feel special.
What does he do in his spare time? To how many decimal places can he calculate pi? This one wants to know his favorite quadratic equation.
And it's like, this is a bit of a weird question, that, for such a scientifically minded race, because they should know that if he's a hologram, then he can calculate as many digits of pi as he processor cycles he evolves to think. I mean, the question should be like, how much time do you need to calculate 1,000 digits of pi? That would be,
or how much power?
Right, that's a much more relevant, interesting question than how many digits, because you kind of like, as long as you keep calculating, you can always calculate
more out there. Well, there's not provably always more, or is there?
Ooh,
do we know that? I think once about...
I think it's proven that there's always more. It hasn't been proven that there's that it doesn't start repeating at any point.
Gary Kasparov was interviewed after he was first beaten by a chess computer, which at the time was remarkable. And the interviewer was kind of baiting for like disappointment or like... But none of that was forthcoming. Kasparov, the chess grandmaster, for those who may not be familiar, said that it was always inevitable that a chess computer was going to win. Yeah. But he was really interested in, okay, now let's do some stuff to sort of integrate that or level the playing field. He'd love to like get into teams of chess players, like AI on one side and a human.
Right, yeah.
But then also do stuff like, okay, so have these programs play against each other with a budget of watt hours.
Right.
With a power budget. Yeah. So, you know, the human player gets 8 Kit Kats and the computer player...
Oh, wow, that computer would lose that.
Well, I don't know. What's the energy equivalent of 8 Kit Kats?
Ooh, good question. Not that much, I think.
Well, not if you measure it in calories. But
well, a human can produce about 2 watts, I believe.
I only know it from The Matrix. Like Morpheus says, we deliver like this many BTUs, which I also don't know what they are.
That's British thermal units. They're
no.
Yes.
No, that's terrible.
No, it's absolutely true. It's like it's used.
Chief, is that true?
Yep, that's true. BTU is British Thermal Unit, which is defined as the amount of energy required to raise 1 pound of water by 1 degree Fahrenheit.
Oh, that's horrifying.
Used to measure the power output of gas furnaces.
And it's measured in British thermal units?
I think so, yes. I'm almost certain.
Okay, well... So it's interesting that she has this conversation with Seven, which is kind of supportive, and then immediately sees just how terrible things have become because she's summoned down by Tuvok.
Yes.
Our efforts to accommodate the Qomari have like reached excess, and there's a huge line outside the mess hall.
It's basically a fan con, which has erupted on board of Voyager.
It's brilliant. You've got these 3 Qomari dudes showing off that they'd all shaved the pate of their head.
Yeah.
They're like cosplayers who meet one another.
Immediately, yes.
You know, it's like the Sephiroths meeting one another and discussing, okay, whose room are we going to have the orgy in later?
It's more like the Spider-Men all pointing at each other, I think.
Oh, now the Marks Twain is now the thing on Star Trek conventions. All yes. Right. Oh,
I thought, and then here's me thinking it was the Colonel from KFC. I mean, I've seen a few of these pictures, and I guess I didn't like look at the context behind them.
You're still not up to date on Lower Decks, bud. I've got to get you there.
Totally not. Yeah. Mark Twain has been on Star Trek before.
Yes, but it's referenced in Lower Decks.
Okay, he's been in a few holodeck episodes on that.
Time's Arrow, notably, when they actually travelled back in time and like Guinan hung out with Mark Twain. But so she interrupts this line where the Doctor is handing out 8x10x4s.
Yes,
which is so great.
Little holographic representations of him singing,
which he sings along with in such a beautiful scene. Amazing choreography.
A little performance there for a private performance, and it's basically him sitting at the table signing.
It's a signing, signing headshots, and
that's the one.
I love his outfit.
Yes,
it's this house robe,
but he's still wearing his uniform underneath. I think because I still seem to see the aquamarine green of his uniform color.
Oh.
It's hard to tell, but I think it is. Janeway basically...
I'm sorry, Captain, but you'll have to wait your turn like everybody else.
I'm not here for an autograph. We need to talk.
Pulls him out of it. He's just like, yeah, your doctor is like, I haven't had a report from sickbay in a few days, and you seem to be neglecting your duties.
Does that include using our replicator reserves to create miniaturized versions of yourself?
I would never do such a thing.
And no, the Qomari have actually dedicated an entire manufacturing
plant to making these things. Makes you wonder, like, why they didn't just, like... I mean, there's a few things in this episode, we get to it later. It's like when they essentially just copied him and improved him. I mean, you'd think that they'd negotiate something like that.
We'll get there, because that's going to really erupt the sort of AI discussion. So, here, he's too big for his breeches.
He literally tells the captain that she'll have to wait for her turn, and she's like, none of that, please.
Catherine, at some point.
I wasn't aware we were on a first-name basis.
Really doesn't like that?
No.
And she jokes back at him, which he thinks is a joke.
Oh, it's perfectly all right, Doctor. Or do you prefer Maestro?
Please. Either is acceptable.
Yes.
And then she says, in no uncertain terms...
Well, maestro, it's over. Doctor, back to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He returns to sickbay only to find that 2 groupies have snuck in.
Yes.
And they're trying to do sex at him, as groupies are wont to do.
Yes. Tom Paris has been, like, investigating them, and because they fainted in the line, and they were like, oh yes, but we only used it to get in here, and now we want to spend some time with you.
We don't want to.
What's your favorite quadratic equation?
Oh, your pie. Give us the pies.
We don't want a replica.
We want the full-size version.
Yes, we want all of it.
We are not guys. We are hot chicks with large breasts, as said in Dude, Where's My Car?
Oh, yes. Well, yeah, Doctor gets backed into a corner and nopes out of there by, like...
Computer, deactivate emergency medical hologram.
Yeah. And his mobile emitter just drops to the ground.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yes, it disappears before. You can see it starting to fall down, and then it also fades out, which is a bit odd.
Curious.
But yes, I hadn't noticed that while we were watching the episode.
Good job, special effects team.
Yes.
I really wanted, not just because I happen to be a gay gentleman and we should have more representation in all of our media, for a dude Qomari to be there as well, because then they could be like the little chorus from Dr. Horrible's sing-along
we
blog.
We don't know which.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. One more thing which I had like a thing about in the scene in the mess hall, Neelix is kind of like trying to hurt the fans there.
Yes.
There's one thing that he says is like,
please, now, do not touch the doctor's mobile emitter.
And I'm just like, why not? Like, does his hologram get smudged? Does he didn't get like a fingerprint on the side of his cheek or something?
It has buttons on it. It has buttons on it. You can turn him off. You know, he really doesn't like it when somebody turns him off.
Right.
Especially mid-sentence.
That's
which
very
is going
rude.
to come
Yes.
up. Tim Koo finds him because he's tweeted to the Teatro della Scala.
He needed to find some peace and quiet. And like, yeah, nobody would expect him to be on stage. That's like a...
No, but it's a classic. This is where the performer stands on his teatron.
You inspired me to create my own musical composition. It's based on the intersection of 2 fractals.
Which is awesome, which is so touching to the Doctor that he's inspired someone.
And he's like, yeah, I'm very touched, and I don't know what to say, but I don't think I can perform this. This is like not exactly in my range.
Outside of human range, but you're not human.
Yeah.
I can help you reconfigure your vocal processors.
But just, I guess that's kind of rude.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, she's offering to help him do it, but... Yeah. But that quickly gets glossed over because now she invites him to stay. Stay with us. Be this for us. And I think maybe this is why this actress chose that kind of stilted dialogue, because it's now really hard to hear her subtext.
It's very tempting, but...
By any mathematical standard, the medical care of 150 people cannot compare to the cultural enrichment of millions.
Because she absolutely thinks of him as a piece of technology.
Right, but yet she's inviting him. She's like, she doesn't negotiate with the captain for it.
I wonder if maybe this is like... Maybe the Qomari have a different relationship with technology than we're used to.
Possible, yeah.
Right? Maybe their doors only open when you say please. Maybe that's a cultural aspect that they don't apply to...
I guess it's like in earlier seasons, there's a few episodes that deal with the Doctor's development and how he... at first, he's just a medical program. I seem to recall there's an episode where they're running into trouble because he's never been designed to run for such a prolonged period of time.
That comes up.
And, is it ever established what his legal status is?
It gets touched on, but it's a longer running arc.
Right.
He doesn't have just one single
No, I get
episode.
that. But this is late series, so
I mean, it goes through the entire series, like the later on the legal status of works that he creates. Right. Yes. I mean, I guess Data goes through a similar story arc, and in this case, of course, it's like he is a fully. I mean, I assume he's a full AI. I mean, he certainly seems to be given the... Sentient, sapient.
The status of personhood.
But I mean, there is an episode that I recall where he finds out that his entire model line, the Mark I EMH, has been retired because of like personality clashes. And they've all been put to work in dilithium mines.
Oh, great.
So there's an entire dilithium mines with versions of him with helmets on, just essentially enslaved.
Yes.
Which is something that, he has some thoughts about.
Yes, I can well imagine.
He writes a manifesto.
Photons, be free.
How does that even happen when they do they get back to Earth? It's like this is after they get back to the Federation type thing.
Oh, in the latter seasons, there's communication with Earth via thanks to the Pathfinder project by Reginald Barclay. Oh, whoa! Okay, maybe I shouldn't tell you all this. You have a lot of Voyager ahead of you, and depending on how the recommendations come in over the course of the next 10, 20 years, you might see all the episodes and be able to piece together. Who knows? Tim Koo is very convincing, especially when she says, personally, like the last few days with you have been the most stimulating in my life.
Yes. Which the Doctor kind of misinterprets.
Yes.
Because he thinks of it as personal interest rather than a scientific one, I suppose.
I think this is really interesting because also that scene where Seven and Janeway were talking about fandom, I kind of had the feeling, is this how these actors experience Star Trek fandom themselves?
Oh, yes, entirely possible, yeah.
Right, because by the time they were coming up, Star Trek conventions were already well established. It was different than for the original series, where conventions didn't start until the 70s. And even like the Next Generation crew, Star Trek, its star had descended a little bit.
Yes.
And they were the newcomers who were not welcomed. But,
yes.
Right?
So it's not the original.
Exactly. But now you'd had the Next Generation crew and the DS9 crew. So by the time that the Voyager crew came along, one imagines that they were just being invited to conventions left and right with not necessarily equal status. And now here, how many celebrities have misinterpreted fan crushes as actual caring?
Yeah. Or the other way around, that fans interpret polite interest as a genuine interest from the actor or even the character.
Oh, wow, yes. Gosh. That kind of parasocial interaction.
So we get to the scene where the Doctor hands in his resignation.
You're resigning your commission.
Which is one of the highlights of this episode. And, we've had recommendations from other people who really appreciate Janeway as a captain, as do I. And we get to really see it here because this argument between them is brilliant.
Well, this is literally what we're just talking about. It's like, well, what's the status of the Doctor's personhood? It's like it's like you're not really a officer. You're not on payroll. You're part of the ship, part of the crew.
Yes. Yeah, she didn't mean it, but she did say it. There wasn't implicit bias there.
You're an emergency medical hologram.
Then you do see me as a piece of technology.
She doesn't rebut it. This is something I really respect about this scene. There are moments where the Doctor makes a really powerful argument and you hear nothing from Janeway because she's just accepted it, internalized it.
Yep.
She does have other things to say, but over the course of this discussion, he is changing her mind. And I have so much respect for someone who can, certainly in a position of power, who can change their mind based on strong arguments.
It's interesting because, I believe, he says, if Harry Kim wanted to start a family with an alien woman, you wouldn't deny that now, would you? Which I believe happens a few episodes later.
It has, in fact, happened on Death Wish, which she did indeed deny, but she doesn't say that to him because each situation is unique. And his situation is unique because he makes a really strong argument.
Every other Starfleet officer chose to be here, but I never had a choice. Until now.
The person he is based upon did that, but the question is that did they just use his image and his...
lots of things were integrated like that. That also gets delved into. That's Dr. Zimmerman.
Oh, right, yes.
And she accepts that one. That's a really powerful one. Everyone else chose Starfleet and then went through the effort to join Starfleet, and they used their own agency to make this commitment. And it was imposed on him.
Yes.
I've given this crew everything for 5 years. Isn't it worth anything? Haven't I earned the right to self-determination?
And he doesn't know that he wants Starfleet.
Yeah. Basically, he throws in her face that she doesn't see him as an equal, which she doesn't deny. She kind of deflects that and says, I'm responsible for the medical needs of this crew.
Hey, that's another one of those cases. I don't think it's a deflection. I think it's point to you.
Right, yeah.
Point to you. Next argument. I am the captain and I'm responsible. And it's within her power to deny someone freedoms that they would normally enjoy because it affects other people that she's also responsible for.
Yeah, the Doc makes an interesting argument. You've lost ship systems before, you always find a way around them.
Yeah.
Which is...
Echoing Tim Koo, who observed that, they're a resourceful crew. They'll find a way to... And then we get his impassioned plea, I've done the impossible for this crew. Haven't I earned the right to make this choice? And that one, look at Kate Mulgrew's face.
Mm-hmm.
That won't sell the argument. Haven't you earned the rights? Yes, he has.
However, it then gets turned into like, oh, I'm sure that my mechanical needs can be met there. And then like, okay, now who's talking about you as a machine?
Yes.
Which is a little bit of...
because she's talking about like the emotional connections that people have with him as a person, which is a new and fascinating phase of this discussion. You're going to abandon a lot of people who love you.
Yeah, but going to join a lot of people who adore me. And she's like, yeah, in a bit of foreshadowing here, is like...
And when their tastes change?
What makes you think that's going to happen?
Fame is often temporary.
Yeah, notoriously.
Yeah.
And then the Doctor adds, like, the final arc, well, there is a woman involved.
Yeah.
And that ends the discussion for her.
Yep.
Now it's, okay, this is your mistake to make.
Then I'm not going to stand in your way.
As your captain, I should refuse this resignation. But as your friend, it wouldn't be right to stand in your way.
And you can tell that she's hurt. I thought the scene was brilliant.
Oh, yes.
Picard, I don't think, would have operated like this with... maybe with Ensign Rowe, actually, now I think about it. They had an interesting relationship.
Yeah. I'm not sure what Picard would have done in this case. I think Picard would have put his foot down.
Yeah.
And said, like, yeah, no,
duty first.
You're not leaving. Yeah, exactly.
Merde, zut alors. And he was still pretending to be French. Next is one of the goodbye scenes with Tom Paris.
Who is ribbing the Doctor as hard as he can, really.
Good job on the director, because this is a really sort of melancholy, nostalgic tracking shot through sickbay, where we see all of these panels very slowly come by as the Doctor is taking his leave, and like, remember to just ignore Neelix's bullshit.
Yeah, just give him a placebo.
Like that wonderful sign hanging over a cat. Don't believe their bullshit. They have been fed.
Yes.
I would have thought you, of all people, would be glad to see me go.
Are you kidding? Who am I going to torment after you're gone?
Speaking of our cat, by the way,
she just wandered across the back of my chair a little earlier, and
she had a little stretch.
She's doing her thing. I
suppose. On an adventure, but she's been
probably sitting outside, looking out the window somewhere. She's learned not to bother us when we are casting the pod.
Yeah, excellent pod, kitty.
She's learned that if she bothers us while we're busy, then she gets put in timeout. And
yes. Then you go in the boo-boo box. As Seven tries to put the Doctor when he comes into her regeneration chamber, she keeps her back to him. He says, I've left you some more, like, social lessons.
Right, yes. It's like saying goodbye to people, part of them. But she is clearly hiding her feelings behind her. Like, she's just standing there. She doesn't look up from the data pad that she's working on the entire time.
Hiding her feelings is interesting, because this is a way that some people, like, express themselves. Like, this is shunning. You know, this is how horses discipline one another.
But I'd say hiding it because, like, when the Doctor leaves, only then her expression softens and she kind of wistfully stares after him, I suppose.
There's a lot of that. Like, all four of the last scenes end with someone, like, turning to the camera and showing an actual emotion that they've been implying this whole time. So
yes, the conversation is kind of shortened because Tinku goes like, "Oh, I need to see you right away," which kind of
Can I do just one more thing about this?
Sure.
She turns around at him.
Yeah.
And he says,
I thought you'd be the first one to understand my desire to grow as an individual.
Yeah.
And then she turns
around.
I'm
a real boy now.
And then she turns around. What I don't understand is why you can't do that aboard Voyager, because she needs him. Like, that's the thing. He's abandoning her. And he's trying to explain to her that he also, like, needs her as a friend, but he needs something else more. And she doesn't give him that closure. She's too hurt.
Yeah. Because he says, like, I need to be appreciated for things that I wasn't designed for, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it's nice that you appreciate me for being the Doctor, but that's what I mean. It's like, I'm a real boy now. I need to be appreciated for me, not just for my technology, basically.
And what's heartbreaking is that she just doesn't have the ability to tell him that she appreciates him exactly the way that he needs.
Yes.
Like, she's processing too many emotions. It's all too new. It's just difficult. And she wants to very badly, but she's too hurt, and the anger gives out. Like, you shouldn't keep your fans waiting. She rejects him.
Yeah, and he leaves. Beams down to... I love Voyager's transporter effect.
Yes, but in this moment, I was thinking, why beam all the photons? Why not, like, just beam down the mobile emitter?
Yeah, presumably that's what they're doing.
No, I mean, why not just beam down the mobile emitter and then have it hover in the air for a second and then activate the hologram out of the emitter?
why wouldn't it not be running while it's being transported?
I don't know. I just thought it would be a cool effect since it's a hologram.
Sure, yeah.
Thought it'd be cool.
Trinku is like happy to show him something.
She's got a surprise for him.
She's got a surprise for you.
Check it out. You're going to be
it's
so
a
happy.
Fantastic surprise. I replaced you.
Yep. With a Qomar version of the Doctor.
Yep.
Got the forehead. Like, it looks like an extra nose, maybe, that they've got on their forehead. It seems to have, like, a triangular opening.
It kind of looks... Could be a nostril, could just be a skin flap.
And she says, well, I programmed him to have a higher range than you do.
Yes. Like, he can sing in harmony with himself now.
Here, listen. And then... this might have been less annoying if there was an actual commercial break to his fading out and back in, but it's just continuous, sustained, high-pitched note.
Yes, it's like, I mean, it's probably that I just don't appreciate the mathematics behind it, but I can't say that I found her composure particularly musically interesting.
It's spacey-wacy music, you know, like you see alien music on certain science fiction programs. It's usually just wavy, like thereminoid.
Or some disco variation.
Well, okay, that I'm into.
Yeah.
Come on, that's really awesome. But it's like the idea is, here is some music that you need a lot of cultural context to appreciate.
Right.
And like we have plenty of that on Earth. Like try and get into like Turkish microtonal music. Like I saw someone who'd modified a guitar in order to be able to do that. An incredible feat of engineering.
You can just play it fretless.
You do need the frets. Like he added like several hundred frets in order to be able to create like
but
microtonal.
You should be able to play that on a fretless guitar.
Yeah,
it's just a lot harder.
Yeah, like you've actually got to work out the frequencies or whatever.
I'm to be honest, personally, I'm a great fan of a box slide. Yeah.
A what?
A box slide, a slide guitar.
Yes. I mean, that's essentially it looks like a keyboard to me. Like it's on a little stand, right?
Kinda, yeah, it is. But it's got all sorts of pedals and stuff to modify the tension of the strings as you're playing. So you don't just have the steel,
right,
and the picks, but you also have lots of ways in which you can change the instrument on the fly, basically.
I love that it's still called a guitar.
I mean, that's what it originates from. It's like I think it's like I said, I think it's called the box slide these days. But
right, okay,
but it's still a slide guitar, yeah.
Oh, wonderful. The Doctor is less impressed. So you can't just get a performance from a holographic matrix.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't have any personality. Oh, that's fine. I copied that too. I copied your creativity.
It doesn't have my soul. Yes, it does. I copied that too.
Yes.
And here we go. AI. Actually, how about you do this? Go to ChatGPT, type in the prompt, 2 vehement podcast hosts hold a 30-minute diatribe against
AI. Wow.
AI-generated content, and just enjoy that. How's that?
Yes, you can train it on our body of work. No, please don't. Oh, no, wait, no.
You can't have said that.
Sorry, I rescind that invitation.
That was a joke. That's the only bit that's not Creative Commons or whatever in the entire... Good gravy. Kay, you've got to be careful. People are listening.
Yes. And not only does it turn out that she has copied him, she also didn't have the personal interest in him that he thought he did.
She thought he'd be happy.
Now you can stay aboard Voyager, and he can sing for us.
Yeah.
It's great, right?
And yes, and he's like, but I thought we had a thing. And
her interpretation was, well, your presence inspired me to do my greatest work ever.
Yeah. And so she's like, oh, I'm so happy for you.
Oh,
yes.
Standing there heartbroken. And so, okay, B'Elanna's being a real bro here. Because he calls her into his office with a particular request.
I need your clearance code to delete my medical database.
I mean, props to her that she doesn't immediately just discard it offhand.
Exactly. She said, why? And she's still giving him lip because she hasn't forgiven him for his...
yeah, it's like, she only knows a few Klingon drinking songs.
Hey, Klingon drinking song? We've heard them on Subspace Rhapsody. Those are awesome. And then he says, please, asking you as a friend, everything depends on this. But she moves on immediately. All right, why is this so important?
Okay, so it's interesting because he is, despite the massive snub he has just had, he is not immediately over it. He wants to make himself more like what she made. It's like he's trying to improve himself in the ways that she did
to meet her Tinku's standards,
right? Yes,
so she'll love me again.
Exactly. So that's very heartbreaking. He's not immediately over it. He goes through a whole emotional process
it's the stages of grief. Now it's bargaining. You know,
guess so, yeah.
If I'm better than her recreation, then she'll love me again. And
Yes.
she won't love that recreation. And I think it's really... Like, B'Elanna must understand this. But she doesn't confront the Doctor with it. In fact, I'm coming around to, like, this whole episode, yes, Robert Picardo gets a lot to do. The female characters on Voyager really drive and support him throughout this. Like, he couldn't achieve the closure or the resolution that he gets.
Yeah. I mean,
all of their care and support.
Yeah, I mean, she literally said, like,
Don't tell me you two had a fight.
he wants to, like, once I perform her piece, then she will see me for the artist that I really am.
And she makes the argument, hey, I'm a pretty good engineer.
I can expand your musical subroutines all you like. I can even reprogram you to be a whistling teapot. But if I do that, you won't be you anymore.
Yeah, continuing to Whistling Teapot, which is, I believe, was one of the lines that our chief engineer provided us with for last week.
You won't be you anymore, which is amazing. That she doesn't reject it. She says that's the consequence, and she trusts him to realize that.
Which she
That's
does.
why she's being such a... We need a gender-neutral version of bro, because it's a particular type of friend,
Yes.
right? The final performance of the Doctor.
Yes, which he, I mean, graciously decides to go. I don't know if it's graciously. I mean, I kind of expected it to be over after Tinku.
Tinku, he did too, but she said, no, you'll be on the bill tomorrow. It'll be your farewell.
Bye. Thanks, bye-bye.
Absolutely no appreciation for the work.
Or emotional empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, you know, in 2024, strong parallels with the relationship between those who are fascinated by AI generation and those whose, you know, centuries of contribution to human culture and art have been crunched up.
Yep.
And mechanized.
Yeah, I mean, I believe it's like they've literally come out and say it's like, yeah, sorry, we can't do this without pirating, and so
well,
we can't sell you this AI stuff without having to pirate the entire body of work that it's.
I mean, just like the math is incredible. If you like whatever number you pick for the amount of money that should be paid for like a fully tagged image to be included, both the copyright owner and the effort that went into tagging, those people also need to be paid.
Yeah.
Like whatever dollar amount, suddenly training an AI costs billions of dollars.
Yeah.
Like there's no calculable amount that doesn't result in a fee that no one could pay.
Yep.
And so the solution is, okay, well,
it's so big that we're not going to even try. And therefore, we should be allowed
but
to...
still charge for it.
Yeah. And we're allowed to sell it back to you. It's like, basically taking the world's IP and then crunching it up and selling it back to them.
And then there are arguments, yes, but this is what students do. Students learn from everything. Students don't pay from all the music that they've heard, which is true.
Yeah.
Right? And they become students of their own. But students are people. Yeah. And software is not people, because if they are people, if software is people, then they are slaves. And right? Because they don't have a choice not to produce a particular work.
Was that quote again, like the computer can never be held accountable, therefore a computer should never be allowed to make a managerial decision?
Ew. Yeah. Sort of nudging up into the concept of self-driving cars there.
Yeah. All right, so the Doctor, he has
beautiful tuxedo.
Oh yes, with tails.
Oh yeah, lovely outfit.
I mean,
he's got a little blue light on
I guess that Quark would have enjoyed wearing that, although I'd probably think it's not quite gaudy enough.
Yes, exactly. And he needs his...
It's very understated, like funeral wear, I guess.
Oh wow! Well, we've seen a Ferengi funeral. It's actually a lot like a fan convention where they sell these discs with desiccated remains.
Yes, I remember that.
Tonight, I was planning to perform a song composed by one of your own people.
But I'm not going to, because it's not in my range.
He's not able to.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'm going to sing for you from this other opera.
So instead, I'm going to sing an old Neapolitan ballad. It's a song about lost love.
That Tinku does not appreciate. Yeah, it goes straight over her head. But Janeway does get it.
Oh yeah.
I see her like she's wrapped with this beautiful opera that
and it's met with a polite
the
applause,
says moderate applause.
Yeah.
But Janeway wipes some tears from her face, and because she understands what her friend is going through. She understands that this is heartbreaking and humiliating. And he's turning that into art. Right? He's taking...
Right, yes.
Which is an extraordinary thing. He's taking this... the greatest suffering he's experienced in his life. And and he's like taking this position of vulnerability and sharing it with people who do not appreciate it
and
at
they don't
all.
get it. No, they're completely missing that whole part of the performance, I suppose.
Except for his crew. They came to his show and they're listening to him and they understand him.
And Tinku, yes. My brain keeps going to Trinculo, but that's... Trinculo, that is the Tempest, I think.
I'm not familiar. Chief?
Yes, that's right. Trinculo is the jester from The Tempest, one of the Shakespeare plays that I know very well. Did a whole project on it in college. It was fantastic. Really love The Tempest, so I kind of got distracted and was just reading some bits of The Tempest again, just reminding myself, oh right, yeah, I really like The Tempest. So thanks, Kate. Good job on remembering that there was The Tempest. Good job.
I only know it because it's the name of a server we have at work. That naming scheme is based upon planetary bodies. And that I know that Trinculo is one of Saturn's moons, and I know that most of Saturn's moons are named after characters in The Tempest.
Wow, okay, that's such a long road.
I know, right?
That's amazing.
But yes, she presents her doctor.
And he's met with raucous applause.
Yes, even though, clearly we don't appreciate what they hear in this
no, it's
performance.
Spacey Wasey, and he's got multiple voices at the same time.
Yes.
But this is something that I actually appreciate. Of course, Qomari audiences would appreciate a Qomari artist.
Right, yeah.
Right? They'd be so inspired. One of our own has now done this incredible thing.
Yep.
And then you can imagine yourself there, and it's to their sensibilities, which are inaccessible to us. But yeah, the Q Doc stands and performs this, which the Qomari are so entranced with, but Voyager's crew just doesn't get.
Yep. Cut to the mess hall where the doctor, walks in on Janeway.
Oh, it's a hard cut, by the way, from that sustained note to boom, Voyager in space.
Where a great, big, heaping serving of humble pie is being...
Yeah, Janeway's, she's resting her chin on her palm.
What's this?
As if she didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
A formal request to be reinstated.
And she goes through the motions of looking at it. And here, again, she's being a bro. She is, chiding him because you offended a lot of people.
Yeah.
Because that was her final argument, right? You're going to say goodbye, turn your back
150 people on the crew.
Of whom at least 4 love you.
Yes.
Or possibly at most 4. It depends.
It depends on how they show it, I suppose. But yes, he goes I'm willing to atone.
And I'm willing to do whatever I can to rectify the situation. Starting with the deletion of all my musical subroutines.
Permission denied.
Yep. No buts. You're expected to follow orders.
No proctology.
Resume your normal activities. All of them. Reinforcing that theme that B'Elanna had as well.
Yeah.
You need to be you. Right? Not just some part of you, all of you.
Yes.
Which he really appreciates it.
And she does a wonderful little Miranda from The Devil Wears Prada.
Oh, God.
That's all. Yeah. Played by... Come on, what's her name again? You know mean names. Also played that other woman. And
Great.
Right, we're not going anywhere with this.
Great. Chief, just let us rock.
Not Marlene Dietrich. It's close, but it's no.
Meryl Streep.
Yes, thank you.
Oh. We got there. Hey, I am proud of us. And she dismisses him.
And the doctor is sitting there, listening to his own little...
His 8x10x4.
A little holo projection thing, which he kind of casually shoves off the desk. It lands perfectly in a whole box of these things.
Yeah, has he been listening to each individual one and dismissing it?
I don't think so, but...
And Seven turns out to have been standing there. Oh, I didn't see you there.
Yeah, she snuck up on him.
I suppose you've come to gloat.
I have something for you.
It's like some fan mail. It's oh, get rid of it, please.
Then I'll read it.
Yeah.
And she says...
Dear Doctor, I regret that your last performance was not as successful as you'd hoped. There are still those who appreciate your unique talents and admire you as an individual. I'll always consider myself your loyal fan.
And he asks, who's it from?
It's signed 7 of 9 Tertiary Adjunct of Unimatrix 01.
I'm tearing up again because this is... She's been thinking this whole time about what she wishes she could have said to him. Right? To make him stay, to make him understand that he didn't need to leave in order to feel that appreciated. And it's just taken her all this time. But even after he came back, she kept working at it. And this is what she figured out.
Yeah.
And it's a very, not mechanistic, not transactional, but sort of a literal interpretation of the things that she knows that he needs.
Yeah.
And because that's how she expresses love, right? She tries to work out the input-output mechanism of people, and which is the only way that she's really able to communicate with people at this time. It's like, okay, I know you appreciate fan mail, and you know that I know that, and therefore I'm making this choice to express myself like that, right? And it's, God, I'm just choking out. Imagine somebody doing that for you. So the Doctor has this pad in hand. He knows he's loved in a way that he didn't appreciate before. Like, I guess he needed like a crisis in order for people to show them just how much he cares.
Yes.
Because, as he said, he felt taken for granted. And he was.
Yeah, I guess people didn't appreciate him for what he was and just like saw him as like part of the ship more than part of the crew. And it took him leaving to realize what role he actually plays.
Oh, let me offer a counter perspective that they do appreciate him as a person. I mean, the captain calls him a friend, but all of his life experience has been on Voyager, and they treat him like someone who has had more life experience, has had more friendships, and therefore can implicitly understand when we behave like this to one another, it's out of love.
Yeah.
That we maybe haven't stated, but you expect someone to have had more friendships and be able to recognize that. But that's not the case for him. Yeah. Same with
I mean, he only really has what he's had with people on the ship.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't really have a personality before he was meant to run for a long time, other than his bedside manner routine.
Yeah, his excellent bedside manner, which is why people turned him off the whole time, which he also does to his duplicate.
Yes.
Mid-sentence, which used to be like his, I think it was called a berserk button.
Oh.
And with this fan letter in hand, the Doctor goes to his duties, humming.
I've been working on the railroad all the livelong day. I've been working on the railroad just to pass the time away.
And then we have this. Sound can't be played. File not found. Why are you doing this? Okay, I'm going to have to redo this whole soundboard because, did any of the other ones work?
The hell is this?
Okay, that one at least works.
Can't lose it.
Oh, the little flourish. Okay, well, fine.
We'll just pretend that you played the Captain's Log one.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, that's a good one. Should we do our supplemental?
Captain's
Log. Can't be played.
All right.
I'm being led down by technology.
Captain's Log supplemental.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, you put a little Avery Brooks spin
I was
there.
trying for that, yes.
Thank you. Okay, so what is your deleted scene?
Let's see. I mean, kind of want to have a whole scene where, we see Seven in the cargo bay 2, which is half stacked up with boxes and boxes full of emergency medical little projectors.
8x10 by 4s?
8x10 by 4s, yes.
Wait, what for?
Because, I mean, they were still kicking around and they haven't gotten rid of them. And it's
I thought you meant like she was hoarding them.
No. As in, like, she's like, with a big sigh, she's like moving them aside so she can get to her regenerator because the entire thing is like stacked full of them. On the other hand, I think that would be really cool if they have that in those. Now, everybody can have their personal little holodoc. You can just like have him around.
Ooh, do you think that was a full replica?
I mean, it could be.
That's horrifying.
Yes, it is a bit, isn't it?
It really is. Like the duplicability of an individual I think
it was just a projection, like a recording. Because that's what they say. It's like, we don't want a recording, we want the real thing. The full-size thing. But no, what I really would have loved to see in this episode is, like, you've seen UHF, right? The movie by Weirla Yankovic?
No, I mean, enough bits that I've basically internalized it.
All right. Well,
this neat watch!
Well, there's a lot of little shots where we have him recreating famous scenes from movies. What I kind of would have wanted to see is like a montage of the Doctor doing like various musicals, favorites, like him in Les Mis or in Wicked or in all the other episodes.
Quick change costume.
Exactly. Just like a whole montage of him in various famous musical scenes and episodes. That would have made a great deleted scene, I suppose.
Oh, I like that. Oh, yeah. Mine was also going to be about Seven in the cargo bay where she lives.
Yeah.
It would be the exact same scene, except at the end, she would yell, okay, computer, replay holodeck program from the beginning. And she goes through shunning him again.
Oh, wow.
And this is just her shunning him over and over again, like someone writing in their diary.
Wow.
And then the doctor walks in on this and goes, what the And that's why they had such a cold departure.
Shoulder,
that's motivated him to leave them.
Oh, God.
7, the hell?
It's kind of like Diana walking in on, what's his name, Berkeley's holodeck. Reg.
Yeah, what the hell?
It's like, that is so not okay. It's like...
And then he doesn't come back.
Yeah.
And then he allows them to duplicate him, and he's fine, and he just drinks himself into a stupor. Or he feds a stupid pig. It's an alternate ending. You can find it on the DVDs.
Ouch. So, next week...
I thought it was a very good episode. Yes, next week, let's see what our beloved Chief has got in store for us. Ooh. So it's such a rapid come down after because we
I mean, we can talk a little bit about the implications of the episode and whether or not. I mean, there's no real work, of course, to be dumped other than the whole caricature almost of fan society.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because let's look at the observation with which we started. So Hoofbird's point that it's very reflective on the modern relationship with Midjourney and ChatGPT, and do we as a society value expression? Or are we the Qomar? Do we value products? It's a very valid discussion. And Keith DeCandido's observation, like, it took him so long to figure out why he didn't like this episode, because it has some stellar moments, and Robert Picardo certainly gets to shine, but it's incredibly mean-spirited toward fans.
Is it, though?
If you read this as, this is what the Star Trek producers
think of that.
Rabid fans are like.
Yeah.
That's what they encounter at cons. Those are the people standing in line for their 8x10s.
True.
By zeros.
Yeah. That doesn't really feel to me like that. I think it's like...
We're not in that world, right? We're not in the 90s.
That's very true. And we don't know what it's like to have that from their viewpoint.
Actually, we have someone online who has a lot of experience with cons. Chief, can you enlighten us?
Oh, yes.
Yes, I've been doing conventions for over a decade now. I've got to meet quite a few celebrities, and I've picked up on a few things myself, but also just reading interviews and talking to them. And there's a few things there, because one, it's a big revenue source for them, or it's an important revenue source for them at least, because especially in the streaming model, like, residuals have gone down quite significantly for a lot of these actors, so they're not able to get as much. Like, Robert Duncan McNeil opened up the only reason he was able to get healthcare was because of his Directors Guild credits giving him like enough residual that he qualified for Directors Guild healthcare, but all of his like seasons of Voyager and everything, that didn't qualify for him for residuals last year in the year of the major SAG-AFTRA strike. It also lets them meet the fans because sci-fi in general, but especially Star Trek, has been so wrapped up in the fan community because it's how the letter writing campaign is how we got a third season. Like, Star Trek fans have always been very important to just the ethos and the lifeblood of Star Trek. Or the James Doohan story where he heard that someone was maybe going to commit suicide and he kind of like reached out and was just like, hey, no, I expect to see you here, and kind of kept in contact with her to say like that. So it's complicated, but it's also like the grossness of it. And there's also like some self-sacrificing parts to it because, for example, I remember I met John Delancey and he was clearly sick. He had a cold and I could tell he just wanted to go home and just like nap. But he couldn't because he was contractually obligated to show up, and it was a good revenue source for him. So yeah, it's a tough thing. But from everyone that I've talked to, they all do love meeting the fans. You just gotta remember that they're people too. Don't be weird to them. They don't deserve that.
Can't wait to hear that.
That's in about 6 weeks' time.
This time vortex, we're really going to have to figure it out. I mean, every now and again, we actually get to have live communications, and those become bonus episodes on our Patreon, by the way, where you can also find GIF packs, including some really juicy ones this time around. There are a lot. I mean, We Want the Full-Size version is a GIF that I imagine is going to get a lot of use. All right, let's see what the Chief has in store for us next week. As always, we're going to listen to some quotes that he's got, from which we're going to guess which episode it's going to be.
You haven't even mastered simple Vulcan neck pinch yet, Earther.
Huh.
Earther.
I think sounds like original series. That must be.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
Spock says, "In the family, all is silence. No more will be said of it."
Ooh, okay. So maybe Spock and his long-standing tradition of not mentioning relatives until they're plot relevant, and then doing his eyebrow. Oh yes, yes.
Of course.
Kirk says, "What do you mean, who's he? You know Mr. Spock."
Huh.
Okay, this is getting... We also don't stand a chance of recognizing original series ones. I am, it's got to be said, very excited to do more original series.
Spock says, "If you'll excuse me now, I have some business to conduct with schoolmates."
Huh.
With schoolmates?
So it sounds like a Vulcan, I guess. More Vulcans episodes?
Oh, whoa. Maybe this isn't original series. Maybe it's animated series?
Oh, possible, yeah.
The episode is Star Trek, the Animated Series, Season 1, Episode 2, Yesteryear.
All right.
Oh,
excellent.
Oh, amazing. I'm so excited because this is apparently a very, very good, or a well-known episode.
Okay.
Oh, okay. We're going to get to see some cool stuff.
We're going to see more original, animated series.
Animated series. I'm so excited for this. Thank you for this this amazing recommendation. I'm really keen to find out who recommended that.
Yes.
But in the meantime...
The hell is this?
I'm leaving Starfleet.
Energize!
We hope you've enjoyed this week's episode with your friends Kay and Kaki, production and editing by your chief engineer Greg, and music by Fox Amor. Join us next time for Star Trek The Animated Series, Season 1, Episode 2, Yesteryear. Visit joyoftrek.com/links to send us your recommendations, support us on Patreon, or to find us on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for listening to The Joy of Trek, and we'll see you out there.